The buzz echoing through the arrivals hall at the Austrian airport felt far too loud for such a narrow space. Philippine flags waved high in the air. Cameras were held up in 2 and 3 rows deep as 20-year-old Alexa stepped right into the middle of it all, just days before her April 6 debut at a WTA 500 tournament on clay in Linz. This wasn't the usual welcome given to a player, simply hoping to introduce herself to the crowd. This was the kind of reception saved for a true star, someone whose name had already arrived in the building long before she did. The cheers themselves were impressive, but what they said about Alexa's growing position in world tennis carried even deeper meaning. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and follow this story before the rest of the tennis world starts talking about it in hindsight, make sure to subscribe and keep close to this channel. Just 72 hours earlier, the last memory many fans had was harsh. A 0-6, 2-6 defeat to Karolina Muchova in the Miami round of 16 on March 23rd. Yet despite that loss, Miami had still lifted Eala into Austria as the world number 29 and one of the biggest names in the Linz field. She left Florida feeling disappointed, but also proud of her week and fully prepared to begin her clay season. When the video of Eala's arrival in Linz began spreading across social media on March 25th and 26th, the narrative quickly shifted. It was no longer about how Miami had ended. It became about what Europe was about to witness. There is no villain in this story, only the oldest challenge in tennis. A new surface, a fresh draw, and the big question of whether momentum can survive the uncertainty that comes with change. Linz marks her very first WTA 500 event on clay. And not just any clay, it's indoor clay. This is the brand new identity of a tournament that had been played on indoor hard courts since 1987. So if anyone looked at her recent heavy losses, a 6-0, 6-2 defeat to Linda Noskova in Indian Wells, and the 0-6, 2-6 loss to Muchova in Miami, and wondered if this surface switch had come too early, that reaction was completely understandable. Those were tough defeats. Those were real scars. But that's exactly why the airport scenes mattered so much. Those moments in Austria didn't look like a player arriving under heavy pressure. They looked like a player arriving wrapped in confidence, shielded by belief, protected by high expectations, and stepping into an entirely different level. The conversation has moved past whether Alex Eala belongs in these big stages. Now the real question is what will happen when that electric energy follows her onto an indoor clay court. Let's start with what the cameras captured. Multiple videos from fans and media on March 25th and 26th show Eala walking through airport arrivals in Austria as Filipino supporters wave their flags, chant her name, and push forward just to catch a glimpse of her. You could instantly sense the atmosphere. This wasn't simple, polite recognition. This was pure emotional ownership. She hadn't even played a single point in Linz yet, but the energy in the air already suggested the entire tournament had been touched by her presence. That matters deeply, because tennis stardom is usually measured after the matches, after the upsets, and after the trophy celebrations. Eala, however, generated that powerful current even before the draw was released. If you've been feeling that her rise was turning into something much bigger than just ranking points and match results, Linz is now giving you clear visual proof, and the stage waiting for her is anything but ordinary. The Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open runs from April 6th to 12th at the Design Center Linz. The year 2026 marks the first ever indoor clay edition in the tournament's history. Eala enters this event as one of the highest-ranked players in a 28-player field, with the draw expected to be released around April 3rd, a new surface for the tournament, and her first WTA 500 experience on clay. The timing has turned a simple arrival into a powerful opening scene. Imagine being one of the other players in the field. You're preparing for the first clay edition of this long-running tournament, and even before practice sessions begin, the biggest story is a 20-year-old from the Philippines walking into Austria through a sea of waving flags that completely changes the temperature of the event. It sends a clear message to every opponent. This will not be a quiet, low-key transition week. The speed of this shift is what makes it so powerful. On March 19th, she fought past Laura Siegemund in 3 tough sets, 6-7, 6-3, 6-3. On March 21st, she defeated Magda Linette 6-3, 7-6-2. Then on March 23rd, Machova ended her run with a brutal scoreline that would shake anyone's confidence. Yet almost immediately afterward, Eala looked back at the week and said, "Obviously, I'm leaving the court today a little disappointed, which is normal, but overall I'm very happy with my performance this week." That statement says a lot. It shows a young player who refuses to let one bad match define her entire week. Miami left bruises, yes, but it did not take away her direction. By the time the Austria rival footage spread across social media, the emotional storyline had already flipped from setback to fresh start. She reinforced this herself. After Miami, Eala shared, "I can confirm Miami is still the best. I'll always have a special place in my heart for this tournament. First sunshine doubles done." That is not the voice of someone shrinking away from the next challenge. It is a voice of a player who carefully files away the pain of defeat, holds on to the positives, and moves forward without making excuses. And that has become her pattern. Strong performances in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, a breakthrough run in Indian Wells, a round of 16 appearance in Miami. Now a quick transition into Linz. Different cities, different conditions, different challenges, yet the same upward momentum. This is not random success. This is a career learning how to maintain its altitude. Which brings us back to that airport moment, because it wasn't just background noise. It was the emotional peak of everything she had built in the first months of 2026. Fans didn't travel to Austria, wait in the arrivals hall, and wave flags simply because of a ranking number. They did because Eala has become a living symbol of possibility for people who see themselves in her, cheer for her in their own language, and understand the importance of what is unfolding. Tennis sees many good weeks, but it rarely creates this kind of magnetic pull, where a player crosses continents and the welcome feels more like a homecoming than a simple arrival. The crowd at Linz airport answered the question before the clay season had even properly begun. Alex Eala is no longer just entering tournaments. She is arriving as the main event. Now consider perspective of someone who knows her game better than almost anyone. Joan Bosch is not a commentator looking for attention. He is Alex Eala's traveling coach, the man who has guided her through this entire rise, and a seasoned trainer of elite players. His standard for progress is direct and honest. We cannot stay at the same level. That statement carries extra weight in Linz. Indoor clay requires quick adjustments. Making her first WTA 500 appearance on clay demands strong nerves. Bosch's words cut through the glamour of the airport videos and point to the real engine driving her success. The welcome was beautiful. The mindset behind it is ruthless. Keep progressing or fall behind. Eala's chapter in Austria makes perfect sense because the team around her has been deliberately building toward exactly this kind of next step. The true significance of Linz begins with one powerful image: Filipino flags fly in an Austrian airport for a women's tennis player who hadn't even started competing yet. That is the globalization of tennis happening in real time. A 20-year-old from the Philippines is carrying fan energy across continents, and that completely changes how this entire clay swing will be followed. The immediate tests are clear. The draw, expected around April 3rd, will show what kind of first challenge awaits her. April 6 marks the start of her Linz campaign on the tournament's brand-new indoor clay courts. And beyond that, the European clay road leads toward even bigger stages, from Madrid to Roland Garros, where confidence gained in 1 week can transform an entire season. Here's a realistic prediction. If Eala finds her rhythm in Linz, even with one strong opening win, the entire discussion around her clay season will shift instantly. No one will see her as a hard-court specialist, simply trying her luck on dirt. Instead, she will be viewed as a rising star with enough belief and support behind her to make any part of the draw feel dangerous. That's how fast receptions can change once results and aura begin feeding off each other. Still, honesty demands we acknowledge the bruise from March 23rd. The 0-6, 2-6 loss to Machova was painful. It was a kind of score that can make a strong week suddenly feel shaky. Eala never tried to hide her disappointment. She admitted she left the court hurting, but then chose to focus on the bigger picture of the tournament rather than drowning in the pain of the final match. Her next moves were more important than any words. She rested. She reset. Then she confirmed her participation in Austria and turned her attention toward the clay season. That is what the fans in Linz were truly celebrating. Not perfection, but a young player who can take a hard fall and still walk into the next city with a clear mind and strong purpose. An airport in Austria, flags from home, a Miami run that ended in pain but still expanded her global presence, a coach who demands constant growth, a tournament reinventing itself on indoor clay at the exact moment Alex Eala arrives to test a new version of herself. That is the real story. Linz was never just a side event between hard court season and bigger European tournaments. It was a coronation moment disguised as arrival footage. Eala reached Austria carrying more than just her bags. She carried undeniable proof that her name now moves people even before a single ball is hit. And for the fans who recognized this power before the mainstream headlines fully caught up, this week offered something truly valuable. Confirmation in real time. You weren't just chasing hype. You were correctly reading the signs while they were still taking shape. So when the Linz draw comes out on April 3rd, what will matter more to you? The first opponent across the net, or the unstoppable momentum she carried through that airport hallway? And if she starts a tournament with a win, does that turn Linz into the moment her clay season stops being a question mark and starts becoming a serious warning to everyone else? If you want to stay part of the group that follows this story before the rest of tennis looks back and talks about it later, subscribe and stay close to this channel. The people in Austria waving those flags understood exactly what moment they were living in. This community does too. And the next time Alex Eala walks into a new city, you'll already know exactly why the entire atmosphere feels different.